Hello, my name is Andriana Cunningham, and I am a PhD candidate in the UF Department of Anthropology. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the research poster I'm presenting today, titled Positioning Enslaved Persons in 19th Century Barbados Fugitive Slave Advertisements. For a bit of context to this project, the transatlantic slave trade occurred through the 15th to 19th centuries, displacing an estimated 12 million African persons. And although myriad slavery-based economies shared this history of displacement, the modes of reinforcing enslavement varied considerably, including factors such as colonization history, economic structure, and modes of racialization. Bearing this concept in mind, this study focuses on the island of Barbados to analyze the social positioning of enslaved persons, specifically those who resisted their enslavement through escape. My analytical approach relied on content analysis of 343 fugitive slave advertisements collected from the Barbados Mercury and Bridgetown Gazette newspaper, spanning the years 1807 to 1812. I transcribed each advertisement and imported the dataset into MaxQDA software for analysis. My approach to qualitative coding was partly deductive and inductive. This means that I developed an a priori codebook to standardize my coding process, and these codes were theory-driven, pulling from theoretical frameworks of racialization in enslavement and colonial contexts. However, while coding, I also incorporated new data-driven codes. Lastly, I used tools such as code frequencies and code matrices to identify broader themes in how enslaved runaways were being positioned. For my results, I want to briefly note the most frequently occurring codes in the dataset. Advertisements most frequently mentioned racial ascriptors, physical features, and warnings against harboring runaway persons. There are also descriptions of factors such as the runaway's birthplace, their ability to quote-unquote pass, or their skills. I identified three main themes of social positioning based on the most prevalent codes. The first theme, race and color fungibility, refers to the pattern that race and skin color ascriptors often connoted ways of being for enslaved persons. Specifically, Blackness was closely tied to the idea of quote-unquote Barbadianness, while the term Negro was a broader term denoting enslaved status. The second theme, an act, refers to runaway persons being cognizant of their own characteristics that could aid or hinder their escape, such as language or appearance, and then strategically adapting those features to controlled performances. The third theme, seeking the familiar, relates to runaways' tight networks of relatives and acquaintances who were most commonly located within the same town or in a bordering parish. To highlight this idea of tight networks, I will briefly discuss one runaway enslaved woman named Katerina, who escaped from a plantation in the Christchurch parish of Barbados, on the southern tip of the island. In the advertisement, we learn that her spouse, Roger, and one of her brothers, John, a carpenter, also reside on plantations in the same parish. We also learn that she has a father, Othello, a millwright, and a brother, William, who both live at Borded Hall Plantation in St. George Parish, which borders Christchurch. Katerina's social connections are just one example of many in the dataset. To conclude, these preliminary results suggest that in the years directly following the abolition of the British slave trade, enslaved runaway persons had to remain cognizant of factors beyond their control and strategically conceal features that could risk their recapture through controlled performances. Further, racial ascriptors and skin color described manners of cultural experience. Runaways also had social networks that were spread across plantations, but tight geographically. To expand on these results, I plan to extend the time period of analysis to 1816 to further examine the social positioning of runaway persons in Barbados. Thank you.